lunatic is on the grass. The lunatic is on the grass. Remembering games and daisy chains and laughs? Got to keep the loonies on the path. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter, coming at you, episode 103.
Well, and I will say that we're going to start a new streak tonight. I have no idea who you know.
I did pitch you a softball last time, or rather, more of a lateral, I guess.
Well, I didn't fumble with it.
That's true.
You know,
that's hard to fumble the Super Bowl shuffle.
True, but yeah. I could have ground it out or popped to second. Instead, I hit one off the green monster.
You did.
Enlighten us, Jay.
That's Pink Floyd, Brain Damage.
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
Don't they got the album with the triangle on the front?
That's the very album this is from.
Hey,
Dark Side of the Moon.
You know what? I'm gonna count that as a right answer. Then I think.
In fact, if I had gone through another verse and another chorus, the last line of that chorus is, "I'll see you on the dark side of the moon." Maybe that would have jogged something for you.
Perhaps. Now, I was just made aware. I was at the Timberwolves game last night, and I was made aware that Kiss is on their goodbye tour for the 30th year.
Yes,
and
they are
coming very soon.
I still have never seen them.
I have never seen them either.
Yeah, I watched the Timberwolves game last night. They won against the Rockets. That was a good game.
Darn right it was.
Wow.
That's the Timberwolves, though. They beat a team like me. Houston just hoists up threes all day, and that one guy Harden.
He scored like 42 or something like that.
He was something else.
Goodness, people in his face. He's shooting from closer to half court than.
But that's the Wolves. I mean, they get up for a good team and they inexplicably lose to Phoenix or Sacramento or somebody. Right. I just can't figure. They didn't have Wiggins last night either, so it was kind of good game from Teague and Rose played well, and Towns. Towns is an animal.
Oh, without a doubt.
So I don't know if I get Kiss and Pink Floyd mixed up once in a while, but maybe I do a little bit. They kind of look the same.
No, they don't. Not even when Kiss took off their makeup in the 80s for a short period of time did they look the same.
Well, and I never knew what Gene Simmons looked like till his reality show.
Then you were like, put the makeup back on.
Yeah. No, he seems cool.
Yeah, he does.
I enjoy Kiss's music. I mean, I don't know that much, but what I do know is I've enjoyed. So,
yeah.
They want to be on their, the 30th year of their goodbye tour. I don't believe them. I don't believe them when they say they're done. I mean, I'm sorry.
We will see. I mean, I think what happens, these people go out on tour and they want to be able to say goodbye to their fans, But the problem is they sit home after the tour and they're like, I'm bored. What do I do?
Well, yeah.
I'll write some songs.
Or they just sit around and spend money. I think it comes from. I think it's got to be. It's got to be such a high to go out and, I mean, you can't imagine what it's like to play all these arenas and stadiums. And then you think back, okay, well, what do I do to top that? Well, I go do it next year.
Yeah.
But at some point, I'm sure you get burnt out. I'm sure you get tired of living in hotels and going to the radio stations. And I mean,
it's a lot of work to be on the road. I think, though, when you're Kiss, you don't visit a lot of radio stations.
Not anymore,
you probably on the tour bus, you do some phone calls, and that's maybe it.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure they do some kind of promotions themselves.
Oh, I'm sure that they do. Although they don't have to.
But I think that desire to perform just never really goes away. I mean, even I put it even in our business here. Mm-hmm. If we went away for a little while and just, I'm sick of podcasting, 6 months later, we both would get the itch to go back and do it again. So it's kind of like,
oh, absolutely.
I sort of get it. And, I think it's hard to, especially for musicians, when you make a bunch of money or something and you quit at 35 years old and you have no particular plans of what to do. You've seen guys like Bono, how bored they get what they're doing.
And I'll tell you, I mean, being a musician, it has nothing to do with money. I learned this lesson early on where, I've been a musician since what? I started playing guitar at like 12 or 13. I mean, I played trumpet and stuff before that. But, I started playing rock, seriously at that age. And, I grew up being in bands, having fun. I saw my buddies who are a little older than me get married, quit playing, and really want to start playing again within 3-4 years. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. You don't stop playing because otherwise you're just miserable. And so these people, they retire. I think they get itchy to make more music, and
well, it's doing what they love and doing what they're good at.
We're going to take a little break and rest up, and maybe we'll be back. Is maybe how they should do it. I don't know.
Well, the Rolling Stones have been saying that since my dad got out of Vietnam.
Right.
And Keith Richards, is he still alive? I mean,
that's up for debate, but
I'm not sure he remembers the '90s. But anyhow,
yes.
Yes. Okay, so Kiss, it was the singer.
No.
Dark Side of the Moon.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah. Brain Damage, which will fit in nicely to our main topic today.
Well, it fits nicely, I think, with our local lowdown here as well.
Yeah, I suppose it does. The first story we're going to look at here is out of my old stomping grounds of Duluth, Minnesota. Luckily, I did not attend the Duluth public schools. I was the Proctor public schools. I mean, if that is any better.
No doubt about it.
It felt like it at the time.
If this is any indication, it certainly was.
Yeah. So there was an article out of the Alpha News where it says, Duluth teachers speak out against district ban on the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn and To Kill a Mockingbird. So we know that Huckleberry Finn's been under attack for a long time.
Yes.
From a lot of different places. Haven't necessarily heard about To Kill a Mockingbird. I know, Catcher in the Rye has been, but that's just a terrible book.
Well,
I never understood that book.
It's the worst baseball book I've ever read.
It was pretty much just an excuse to have this terrible character, Holden Caulfield, just curse a ton, and I don't know.
Look, I had to read Shakespeare in college, so nothing compares to as bad as that.
Yes.
If I need Cleveland notes to understand England, that's when there's something I don't like.
Well, that's true.
In fact, the only thing worse than A Midsummer Night's Dream was the movie.
I did not see that.
They did. They made some kind of cheesy, movie of the week about it or something. It was just god horrid. It made glitter look good. So,
I did not see that either.
Oh, I saw it one time at 4 o'clock in the morning. I think I was delusional, hyperventilating. I don't know what I was doing, but anyway, these books and there's other books. You mentioned Catcher in the Rye. There's Laura Ingalls Wilder's books have been under attack.
Yeah,
for their insensitivity to certain minority groups. This is, just typical leftist stuff. I mean, this is how they deal with history. If they don't like something, they try to censor it.
Right.
We've gone through this with lakes being renamed, with statues being torn down. The Revolutionary War is hardly taught anymore. I don't even know if it is. Your average American couldn't name a battle or a general of the George Washington or Articles of Confederation. How many people could explain that to you? Or how many of them have read the Federalist Papers? I mean, or Common Sense?
Yeah.
I mean, it's...
Or the Anti-Federalist Papers.
You're right. I mean...
people talk about the Federalist Papers, at least. Nobody talks about the Anti-Federalist Papers.
No, they don't. And, again, I don't even know what people would think they are.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd get a wide reaction, I think. But this is... this is how the people who control our education, we all know who they are, have decided they're going to deal with American history. They're going to cleanse anything they don't like. I don't understand how censoring something and pretending like something didn't happen is a smart way to go forward with anything.
That's not.
I've said this before on this program, and Jay, I'm going to say it again. As imperfect humans as our founding persons were, what we have to understand about our founding persons is that not only was the Constitution a revolutionary great document, and it is not alive, it is not breathing, it is not evolving, it doesn't need to be burped.
Nope.
But they created the mechanisms to fix their imperfections. Jay, think about it for a minute. If we didn't have the Bill of Rights, okay, which we almost didn't have.
I know.
Remember, the Bill of Rights was created after the Constitution in 1791. And we did not have the amending process to the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
See how forward-thinking our founding persons were.
Oh, absolutely.
But, I mean, women would not have the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Blacks would still be slaves. You had to be 21 and own property to vote.
Yeah.
You know, you'd all the other amendments that for some, I don't know why I'm blanking on them. But, you know, well, the income tax one we can get rid of. But
yeah. And the one about
term limits.
Electing senators.
Right. 16th
Let's get rid
and 17th.
of that, too.
But, you know, the 14th and 15th.
All the progressive era ones.
Yeah.
Let's do what we did with prohibition. And,
exactly. Yeah. We certainly could. But, you know, voting age, women's rights, the 25th Amendment, which the appointing a vice president and so on and so forth. None of those things would have happened without the forward thinking of our founding persons.
Mm-hmm.
So as imperfect as they are, why don't we just study history for what it is?
Right.
You know, why do we take today's, you know, race relations or the way, you know, you can pick up the Bible and see recognition of slavery and things like that. I mean, but it's not an endorsement of it.
It's not.
But the Bible's a historical document.
But yet we sit and whitewash stuff, and I think it allows for a lot of this stuff that happens today. No one's going to say they're in favor of sex trafficking, but you don't see, as serious an issue as that is, you don't see people fighting against it the way that they should. You don't see the fight against it like you did against slavery, you know, leading up to the Civil War. You just don't. And it's far worse and far more pervasive. And I'm not saying that to make light of what African Americans went through. I say that because the numbers of people in slavery today are greater than the number of people that were in slavery then.
Wow.
You know?
You could add things like sweatshops and things like that to that, too.
Oh, absolutely. You know, it's not just sex trafficking. It's human trafficking in all its forms. That slavery is a bigger problem on the earth today. You know, I'm not just talking in the United States. I'm talking like globally. It's a bigger problem.
You globalist, you.
Yeah, that's me.
So I mean, getting back to this, I mean, I read Huckleberry Finn as a kid. Tom Sawyer books were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nobody thought anything of it. What is this beef here with you know, the National Coalition Against Censorship? Kind of has made a big stink about this.
Well, I mean, there is racially charged language in Huckleberry Finn. I mean, I know. I've read it. I read it when I was a kid. Jim, he was a slave. He was the friend of Huckleberry Finn.
Right.
You know, they went off on this adventure together, and there were a number of times where he was called the N-word in the book. But that's
book
not,
that was written in the 1800s.
In the 1800s, right. And as we look at it now, historically, that doesn't mean we endorse that, although, you know, there are certain groups of people certainly that use that still today, and it's not castigated, like, you know.
No, it depends who says it.
Right, it depends who says it. But, however, instead of us looking at it and saying this is the way things were back then, it wasn't good, let's not do that again. We just whitewash it, and it takes on a different form. And it might not be against the African Americans. It might be against Christians or pro-lifers or, you know.
Well, we have a governor of New York that says, if you're pro-life, get the hell out of my state.
Mm-hmm.
There's some tolerance for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, think of it like this. I mean, the controversy, and I can't remember where this was from. I wish I could find it, but I'm too lazy to look it up right now. But I was a fan of Laura Ingalls books as a kid. My mom was too.
Okay.
And I didn't really watch the TV. Although I was an admirer of Michael Landon, I really didn't watch the TV show very much. I thought he was terrific, though.
Yes.
Going all the way back to Gunsmoke or Bonanza or whatever he was on back in the 60s, and that one show where he played an angel or something.
Right.
I can't think of what it is. But anyway,
doesn't
matter. But the beef, if I recall, was how Indians were described in that book.
Yeah.
Now, the way it was described is the way that
it was perceived
back then. There was little understanding of cultures between the two.
Mm-hmm.
We were fighting an undeclared war against India. We just call it what it was. Okay, it was an undeclared war, and the white people won it. I mean, I know that doesn't sound great to say, but we made promises and mostly didn't keep them, and we promised this and promised that, and eventually it was just our what we used to be called manifest destiny to just move across the rest of the nation.
Right.
And it just, at the time, it just wasn't big enough for the two cultures. And there was a lot of controversy back then. And Miss Ingalls is simply describing what she saw and what she lived through. And it gives us a great firsthand understanding of it, to me. I mean, don't you think? Don't you think it's a great... I don't know that her books are completely nonfiction.
Right.
I mean, I don't know that I would call it that. But I mean, what is the harm in going back and saying, here's where it was and here's where it is today,
mm-hmm.
and, learn something from it.
Right.
Instead of, nobody can read it now. I mean, where is this going to go? I mean, who's the arbiter of what is okay for somebody and what isn't?
Well, in this era of postmodernism, you are not going to be happy if you think in that way until you have removed all of the limits of what is acceptable except for what is traditional.
So it's back to the
120 million genders and, abortion on demand and, women are great and men are terrible and...
turn on Dr. Phil, there's enough of those.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I find it amazing that a group of teachers in Duluth, leftist Duluth, stood up and said, we don't want to see these books go away. We want to be able to teach history. We want people to be able to see what was. And I find it amazing that the school board wanted to get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird and replace it with a novel that was written by a woman specifically. And they go on to say there was a letter from teachers to the school board on January 18th where they believe the new novel is and I quote, colossal waste of curriculum monies, and this forced book will continue to be a blight on our 9th grade curriculum for decades, end quote.
Boy, what, they got Hillary's book?
Oh...
That must be her new book. I already read her old book. Yeah, it's called The Old Testament. Anyhow, look, I mean, this is just typical of what, I made fun of when I talked about the Dukes of Hazzard being whitewashed from TV. But, I mean, there's all this. At what point is All in the Family going to be taken off of reruns or is...
I'm surprised it's not, with some of the language on there, the way that, and Archie Bunker and the way that he would talk.
I mean, I don't even know if I should say it right now. And that was the number one show for almost a decade.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Are you going to watch a John Wayne movie and you'll hear things you might... And this is what bothers me so much about Hollywood. I mean, they celebrate sex. They celebrate violence. They celebrate, things like natural born killers. And I mean, why do they celebrate that? And then they're worried about whether the host of the Oscars ever had a tweet that somebody disagreed with. I mean, really?
I know. It's some of the most hypocritical stuff on earth. It's like, we think you should ban all guns. Just don't watch any of our movies because we've got 30 million of them.
How many kills does Rambo have in an average movie?
Well,
I know Stallone's not out there, but
yeah.
But I mean, it's still produced and sold by even though he isn't.
No, it's actually more like listen to anything Christian Bale says and then go watch one of his movies, and you won't believe it's the same person.
Well, he is an actor.
Well.
All right. Anyhow.
Yeah.
One more thing in the local lowdown quick. We got the War on Cars update. We got to come up with a theme song for that.
Maybe I should write one. The War on Cars.
No, I'd rather have something else than you write it.
What? You do know that the opening and closing songs for this podcast are fine numbers written by myself and performed with me and a few other folks.
No question.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure. But if I don't do it, I could find like Gary Newman Cars or something like that, and or a song by the Cars.
Hey, Car 54's theme
drive
song.
You home tonight, something like that. No one will
Billy
drive
Ocean.
you home.
Billy Ocean. We get Billy Ocean.
Get out of my car. Yeah,
that's right.
Get out of your car.
No, it's get out of my dreams.
Yeah, get into my dreams, isn't it? Get in.
No, License to Drive. Corey and Corey.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't seen that in a long time.
Oh, you got to see a great one of the greatest 80s movies ever. One of my top 10, but I have 200 movies in my top 10.
Yeah. Well, get into my car doesn't make any sense, because here we're talking about getting out of cars. It says how 2 cities actually reduce driving, and this is from Streets Blog USA. And one of those cities that has reduced traffic, reduced driving, is Seattle, no surprise. And the other one is Minneapolis. And
again,
let me tell you, I have driven in Minneapolis a ton over the past couple of weeks, and it is a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare. I would rather be in that movie, The Maze Runner, running through that maze trying to figure out how to navigate that than the streets in Minneapolis. It is so bad that there are streets where you have 2 bike lanes on either side and 1 driving lane in the middle, and there's no center line to separate the 2. You have streets where it's one way, and you have a lane for cars, and you have a lane for bikes that is just as wide as the lane for the cars, and you're not really sure which one you're supposed to drive in, especially when they're full of snow. You have streets in Minneapolis where you have these bike lanes that come in and go out, and they're interspersed with changing with turn lanes, and then you have other streets where there aren't bike lanes, but you have protected bus lanes and you have buses coming out from the bus lanes in the street, and you have cars then having to merge with the buses coming out of these bus lanes. Minneapolis is a navigational nightmare. You guys have ruined the city, and if I were you and I lived in that city, I would want my tax money back, because they have done nothing to help your standard of living in that city. It is a nightmare.
I can't really. I'm almost speechless for a change. It is a nightmare. I hate that city. I hate I was in that city last night, and I got the hell out of there as soon as I could. The city
unnavigable
is awful, and
you never know where to drive. Every street is different. Every street is different. Is this one a one-way? Is this one a two-way? Is this a bike lane on this side, or is it only on that side?
It's almost like you can't make it up. If I took these roads, you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to go back to the 1950s and plop these roads into the 1950s.
Yeah.
And see what you'd see then. Some angry people.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's going to take to get Minneapolis off their arse. I mean, pretty much nothing.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. And this is the thing. I mean, they're saying that Minneapolis, in between 2007 and 2016, gained roughly 30,000 residents. Now, I don't know if that's Minneapolis proper, or that probably is. It's probably not the greater metro area. They are saying that vehicle miles traveled are down a whopping, between 2007 and 2016, a whopping 2% in Minneapolis.
So they've dropped 0.2% a year over a 10-year span.
Yeah.
Like Cooper math, right?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So, Now, is that a reflection of... See, I think it's more of a reflection of the lower income people that have moved into the city.
Yes.
Combined with the, when you put, you herd 8 people into an apartment and one of them or 2 of them is working, well, you don't need to drive that much. I mean, how do they know that 2% is down? I mean, where do they get that from?
I don't know. I mean, 2% over 10 years is ridiculous. I'm sorry. And they want to say it's light rail with the green line. They also want to say that the city is also famously bike friendly and has been steadily adding bike infrastructure. In 2016, bike commuting rates reached an all-time high. This is an all-time high of 5%. 5%. And we're adding bike lanes on every road. You have got to be kidding me.
But I mean, you're going to reach a point where the car travel can't go any less. Because here's the thing. Is it a reflection of that? See, I think one of the things is how many businesses have moved out of Minneapolis. I don't think as many people... Think about it, Jay. 20, 30, 40 years ago, how many people lived in the suburbs and worked downtown? A lot.
Yeah.
Not that many do that anymore. People work from home, too. Yep. They have go-to-meeting.
Absolutely,
so
they do.
Is it because they built bike lanes, or is it because people because people are living in Andover and working in Maple Grove?
That's part of it. Part of it is all the high-rises downtown. No, those people aren't driving much of anywhere. I'm not saying they're full. I'm not saying it was worth it to build them. But I am saying there was a period from about 2000, I don't know. I mean, it went past 2008 in that downturn, but where a steady number of the stores that were downtown, the shopping, left. It just gone. Downtown used to have a lot of stores, a lot of shopping, and it was just gone. And now a lot of that has come back because of the transit-oriented development, because of the development around these high-rise luxury apartment buildings.
Which are all tiffed and all.
Right, they're all tiffed and all that. So a lot of the shopping has come back. You've got Target down there. You've got you got Whole Foods down there. You got a number of places you can go. So part of that is the downtown people don't have to leave. Part of that is people are telecommuting instead of driving. Part of that is, like you say, not as many people maybe are working downtown. A lot still are, but I don't think. Yeah, I saw last would have been Tuesday. I was taking a gander over at the light rail, and it's as empty as ever. Nobody's riding it.
I work by the whatchamacallit, the one that goes out to Big Lake.
Mm-hmm. The North Star. Yeah.
The only person that's on there is Elvis.
That's so.
Elvis and I don't know, maybe Ed Gain or somebody. Yeah. But there's just nobody on it whatsoever. Yeah. Mike Myers. I don't know who else is there.
Mike Myers or Michael Myers?
The Halloween guy.
Okay, not the comedian.
Not behave. No, not that guy. You know what's funny? I got to say one thing real quick. This is a year or two ago, I was house sitting for my sister. And it was one of the nights my wife was working late. She didn't join me till the next day. And you know what was on at about 3 o'clock in the morning?
What?
So I Married an Axe Murderer.
That is my favorite Michael Myers movie.
And
yes,
in that movie, now that was he was still on Saturday Night Live when he did that. That was 91, around Wayne's World time.
Yeah.
And he says in there, what have you done that you would say is evil? And I just right away, I was like, wow, I missed that when I watched it. I never saw the Austin Powers character born, but I think it was then when he said, what have you done that is evil?
Oh, I love that movie.
It's terrible.
Look at that thing. It's round and pointy.
There's some funny parts. I'll admit that.
Going to cry himself to sleep on his huge pillow. Yeah.
Wasn't as good as Wayne's World, though. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, Let's wrap this up. It's funny. They attribute it to that stuff. Some other guy that's a local urbanist writer attributes it to the really walkable, infrastructure.
I bet he drives a big SUV too.
He could. And here's the other thing that we need to note is that they also give credit to future decreases to the, and we reported on this, how Minneapolis is now allowing all sorts of development anywhere in the city, triplexes and everything. And they have also recently eliminated all minimum parking requirements. I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not. Minimum parking requirement.
Yep.
So if a Cub Foods goes in, well, there already is one in South Minneapolis, but if, let's say, Hy-Vee wants to go into Minneapolis, there's no minimum amount of parking. They
could have one.
Well, then Hy-Vee won't go there. Of course, they're not going to pay everybody $15 an hour either, so they're not going to go.
But that's part of Green Step cities. Right? You increase the number of bicycle parking spaces.
No.
And you put a limit.
Green Step is the opposite. They set a maximum.
They set a maximum, but they also want to get rid of the minimums to allow you to have fewer spaces.
What? All right. I'll trust you here.
Yeah.
Don't look it up and make me...
It's crazy town. I'm not looking it up. It just makes me upset. We need to move on.
Well, what we have isn't very good either.
No.
And you know what? We're gonna speculate a little bit on this topic because, quite frankly, we don't really know completely what's in this joke.
I've heard
we
enough.
do and we don't.
Yeah.
And that's probably by design because we all know we're talking about the green screw deal, New Deal. I'm sorry, did I say screw?
Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of, I'm sure you listeners to this program are very intelligent and keep up with the news. You might say, well, why are we talking about this on a local show? Because there's going to be a lot of... In fact, I'm going to predict that this never sees the light of day in Washington, and it's local where this is going to go.
Oh, absolutely.
It's already going.
They will do exactly as they have done with everything else that doesn't pass in Washington, and it will go local.
It ain't nothing like this is going to pass. Nothing like this will pass in 20 years.
No, and I think a lot of this stuff still won't pass locally, but there are going to be parts of it that get implemented. And I hate to say progressive because these people that write this, they're not progressive. They have kind of just gone for all-out socialism at any cost. They're radicals. They're not into hiding it with progressive incrementalism. They are for let's get it done, let's go out and grab it.
Well, we'll get into that. And yes, you're right. It's they're almost naked now.
Yeah.
Which is sorry for the visual here when we're talking about Congress, but it's pretty bad. I mean, it's and here's what I don't get. There's so many things. Jay, I know you got a bunch of specifics, but I'm going to kind of deal in hypotheticals here about what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I don't care what's written in there. We all know that the devil's always in the details with something. That's why you can't look at poll numbers. If you looked at poll numbers, do you need some health care reform? Sure. The second you talk about what that is, the numbers just plummet. Then nobody wants it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the same way. And you got to give these people their due a little bit.
Right.
When you look at everything that's in there, from taxes and so on, there's Medicare for all as part of this.
Yeah.
What that has to do with a green economy, I have no idea. It's long-held liberal ideas or socialist ideas that are going to getting a new package here. See, I think these people are smarter than we, and they're dumber, if that makes sense. They're dumb because they're showing their true colors, and they're smart in that they understand that they don't have to pass this in Washington. They don't have to. Whack jobs like what's her name with the hyphenated name are gonna give
Ocasio-Cortez
are gonna give cover to the rest of these. And here's my take. Look at who is endorsing it and yet can't talk intelligently about it. Starting with a senator from Minnesota.
Yes.
Because Klobuchar went on Fox News and backpedaled pretty bad on this.
Yes.
I mean, it was a pretty bad interview.
Well, I mean, she's had a pretty bad week. I mean, from declaring her presidency and talking about global warming in the middle of a blizzard to...
I like Trump's comments. They were pretty funny about how she looked like a snowman. She hasn't had a great week.
No.
And when you're an hour and a half late to your own announcement, boy, that's not good either.
No.
But I'll tell you what. She went on Fox News and really backpedaled her support for this. And she got, 'cause she rarely, if ever, gets challenged. I mean, never see her get, and she's as left as any of them.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at that nutball out in California.
Mm-hmm.
You look at, of course, Bernie Sanders, I'm sure, is all over this.
Yes.
And the only real declared people that are running for the presidency on the Democratic side are all on board for this.
Oh, yeah.
So anybody who comes in, whoever that is, I mean, there's speculation about former Vice President Biden, who I don't think's getting. The guy's 80 years old. I don't think he's getting in.
I don't know. We'll see.
First question he's going to get asked. And I think that's one of the reasons he's not.
Right.
Because he doesn't have an answer for it. He knows that it's not going to help him, but he also knows that the activists aren't going to support him.
Right.
So what does he do?
That makes it hard, I mean, are there enough like old school Democrats to come on and say, I'm left, but I ain't that left?
No, I don't think so. I think those people are Republicans now.
Yeah.
I think during the Reagan years and during the 90s, those people switched parties. But I could be wrong. And what makes me worried, I'll tell you what makes me worried, is that we aren't a center-right country anymore. I mean, if you really think about it, go back, and I know I'm going off topic a little bit, but Democrats have won 6 of the last 7 popular votes in the presidential races. And if you go back to 2004, okay, President Bush got about 62 million votes. Okay? Donald Trump got about 63 million.
Right.
John Kerry got about, I think it was 58 or 59 million. Hillary Clinton got almost 66.
Right.
Look at the increases. Now, look, those are, it's one election to another. It may not mean anything.
Right.
But it's scary how, a straight left, from Bill Clinton, it has gone straight left.
Yeah, Bill Clinton wouldn't fit into the Democratic Party anymore.
And I thought he was very liberal when he was president.
Too, yeah.
But, geez. So that is scary. And it makes, the Green New Deal would have been laughed at 20 years ago. But now it's not laughed at as much. It's almost like you have to, as much as this is unworkable, never will happen, couldn't happen, this couldn't happen in Stalin's Soviet Union, this couldn't happen.
Yeah.
But you have to take it seriously now, whereas before you'd laugh this off. Whatever those loons are doing. But, is this not something we got to take seriously?
Yeah, I think so, because if we don't, that's when it starts to infiltrate its way in.
So think about a green. Now, Jay, I know you've got a bunch of points here about what's in it, but I'd like to know, what is a 90%? You know what amazes me?
Yeah,
is how little some people understand how taxes work.
Yes.
One of the tenets of this is like a 70% tax or a 90% tax. Can I make a statement to people who think that that's workable or a good idea or any of the above? Do you think wealthy people, do you think any of them are ever going to pay a tax rate like that?
No.
Now you might look at me and say, well, how's that possible? It's very easy. Number one, they don't make their money on incomes and salaries. Where do they make it?
Capital gains.
Capital gains. Okay. Second, if I'm wealthy, okay, there's a difference between my wealth and my income.
Yes.
Wealth can be in assets. It can be in a trust. It can be in a Swiss bank account. It can be in gold and silver.
Right.
The idea that you're going to go, you think Warren Buffett is paying a 90% tax rate?
No.
No, of course not. None of them are going to.
No. And I know this isn't part of the new, the Green New Deal, but one of the presidential candidates, and I'm trying to remember if it was Elizabeth Warren or if it was Kamala Harris, one of them was proposing, at least one, a wealth tax, which wasn't based on income, and it was going to be like 20 or 30% annually, and so it was just going to sit and drain everybody's wealth.
What are you going to do? Are you going to take land from people, confiscate somebody's bank account?
Boats.
Take their yacht away, take their vacation home away. What are you going to do?
Exactly. I suppose they look at the net worth, and then they tax the net worth, and then you might have to sell stuff. I'd make things liquid, which is ridiculous.
All for what? I mean, that's crazy.
It is.
I mean, just imagine. And by the way, if they can do that to the rich, who says they can't do that to anybody else? It's a matter of time before they do that to all of us. But how many constitutional amendments does that violate?
All of them?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Go ahead and try to take something of mine there, Kamala Harris. I dare you.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Every time I hear her name, I think of the old wrestler from the AWA, Kamala.
The Ugandan giant.
Yes.
Hey, and I gotta say something about Elizabeth Warren, too. And I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but you know the whole thing about how she's Indian, supposedly. How she wrote that on... Boy, she's had a bad couple of weeks. Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Oh, boy. Yet there's also the claim out there that she, quote, never benefited from doing that. Now, first off, let me ask a question. Why would she do it if she didn't think there was something to be gained from it? And question number two, is she somebody who touts all this white privilege stuff? Well, if it's privilege to be white, why would you claim to be something different?
Yeah.
Now, I'd like somebody interviewing her. I ask better questions than they do.
Well, yeah, go figure.
I mean, somebody on CNN going to ask her that? I mean,
no.
What sense does that make? I'm American Indian, but I didn't get anything from it, and I believe in white privilege. Makes zero sense.
Maybe she didn't want to be picked. I don't know. I don't understand these people either.
Oh, well, I just hope every day she's the nominee.
We should only be so lucky. You remember Spartacus, huh?
I'm fine. I hope it's her.
Yeah.
Guarantees 4 more years of Trump.
Oh, boy.
Anyhow.
Yes.
So back to the green. Now, why don't you go through? You got some points here, Jay, and we're going to get to how this could relate to your local government. And it will. Don't misunderstand us here. It's going to, because... Like we said, this ain't passing in Washington.
Right.
I mean, I don't think the Dems are going to vote for it. At least a majority aren't.
Now, to the degree that this affects local governments, and it will, they want to do a complete ban on all oil, natural gas, and nuclear power.
Nuclear?
Yes. Mr. Bush, yes.
Nuclear? Now...
but I should say they do not mention coal. They mention oil, natural gas, and nuclear power. Well, look what you did. Nuclear power.
Well, that's probably just a fatal omission. The Democrats aren't going to win West Virginia anymore, so what do they care about the coal industry? Used to be one of the most Democratic states in the country, and now it's Republican plus 50.
Yeah.
Impossible. But remember something. Oil is a natural resource. Oil is made by Mother Nature.
Right.
We don't make oil.
It's in so many things.
No, I mean, oil is in plastic.
Yeah.
It's in gasoline, obviously. Oil is in a million things. Mm-hmm. And I mean, what are you going to? And here's the other thing: what are you going to do? What are you going to do to the people working in these industries?
Yeah.
Tell them they got to go deliver pizzas.
Mm-hmm. I mean, getting rid of natural gas. What are cities going to charge their franchise fees on?
Yeah,
But I mean, that's a real question.
Solar panels. Move it to solar panels.
So these cities that shouldn't be charging this anyways and are going to take a hit. So where are they going to make up the taxes?
Well, and how are you going to have electricity? I mean, where's that going to come from?
Right. We're all going to be
what?
shoveling coal down in our basements.
I don't know. What I mean, the generators, what do they... Depends, I guess, what they can run off of. They can run off a lot. But, I mean... And you know what? This is also... We've talked about the death of rural America. This is going to speed that up.
Yes.
Think about all the small towns that are coal... I'm just going to assume coal is part of this.
Right.
Coal towns, oil towns, steel towns.
Yeah.
Whatever. I mean, they're some of them have been hurting anyway.
Right.
So what's going to happen now?
When you take away their main economy?
Maybe their only economy.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Exactly.
And, of course, it'll have a trickle-down effect. Oh, did I say trickle-down? Yeah. But it will. It'll have a trickle-down effect on Sam's grocery store and Julie's barber shop and mixed comic books because people, you pull the main thing out of you force it out.
Right.
And what's the difference between this and China's Great Leap Forward or Stalin's 5-year plan? What's the difference between this? This is government coerced.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have a gulag. Maybe that's
Yet.
the only difference.
Yet.
That's right.
Yet. Yeah.
But I mean, this is centralized planning to the maximum. The government's going to decide where you work, what you can do. How they're going to ration energy if they have to.
Well, and that's exactly it, because they also want to guarantee jobs, a free house, free education, guaranteed income,
a free house,
even for those who are unwilling to work, and free healthy food as well.
Free healthy food.
Yes.
So what if nobody's willing to work then? Well, remember something, like we've said, nothing is free. You're just giving somebody else the bill.
Right.
So, I mean, how many times have we tried? How many programs out there are already trying to do this? Go back to the New Deal. Go back to something like the WPA.
Yep.
Back in the New Deal.
Try to guarantee jobs.
Isn't that kind of what this is like?
Part of it. Also, you take a look at universal basic income, which we've podcasted on before.
Yes.
There's a number of things that I don't know. I mean, free healthy food. I don't understand that.
So does that mean there's no fast food? There's no,
I think if you have money, you can go buy it, but who's going to have money after this thing? Kicks in.
Washington and St. Paul.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let me throw a local angle at you here.
Yeah.
I mean, what happens if you don't have? What happens to all the police cars and fire trucks and plows and ambulances and things like that owned by cities and counties? Buses owned by school districts.
Because they want to ban 99% of the cars currently on the road as well.
So private and public.
Yeah, well, I suppose if they're going to leave some, it'll be the public ones. Because ambulances, necessity.
No, we got high-speed rail. We don't need ambulances.
We can use helicopters.
So NASCAR will be banned then? We won't have NASCAR anymore?
I mean, imagine the CO2 that puts into the air. I'm surprised that isn't...
No more Daytona 500, huh?
Yeah. Yep. No more. All done. Well, that's not really on the roads, but, I mean, that doesn't, put out any less CO2. You take and race cars around a track for 3 hours.
500 miles, 200 laps.
Yeah.
But, and you think about all the cars being made. I mean, we have tried to force these changes, Jay. Take the electric car.
Yeah.
In the 70s, remember when we had the oil shortages and the wars in the Middle East back then?
Mm-hmm.
There was the 7-Day War, the Yom Kippur War. And all the scientists were saying we're going to run out of oil. Of course, they were completely wrong.
Right.
And the electric car became this great idea. And we have been subsidizing the electric car since Nixon.
Yeah.
And still, while there are hybrid versions of that,
right,
the real electric car, as it was envisioned, is still a dream.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a reality. We're no closer to it than we used to be. Now, there's some things like the Escalade. What is that? Isn't that some sort of hybrid?
No, that's the SUV made by Cadillac.
Oh, what am I thinking of? There's something else I'm thinking of.
Ford Escape makes a hybrid.
Okay. There's another
a whole
one.
Bevy of them. Yeah.
It's slipping my mind, but and I do think that eventually the private sector, when it's cost effective and when there's demand for it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remember, people have to buy these things.
Yes, they do.
And they don't want an electric car.
No, I know Chevy is putting a lot of time, energy, and money into building these pods, these electric pods that are going to be run by 5G networks once they're all taken care of. And man.
Well, they're probably doing with our tax dollars.
Yeah. Well, supposedly they're not now. Supposedly they're all free and clear of all that.
But I'm sure there's subsidies for them to do this.
There probably are subsidies. I think they're off of the whole, deal when the bailout.
Government motors.
Yeah, I think they're off of that. But I'm sure that there are subsidies for this. So, I mean, between that, to what degree are you going to need snow plows if you don't have cars on the road, so you can get rid of that. You're never going to be able to get rid of dump trucks, I don't think. Or not dump trucks, garbage trucks, things like that.
Well, how about semi-trucks, how are stores supposed to get inventory? How are restaurants supposed to get food? How are farmers supposed to get their crops?
Well, I don't know, but it'll be pretty easy if they get rid of all the oil to get rid of all the cars, I guess. It'd kill two birds with one stone.
Well,
but think of the economic impact on the cities, and no matter the size of the city, and the more rural you are, the more you need a car.
Yes, and how about all these infrastructure plans? I mean, there's plans to redo bridges and roads, and why are we doing them if just let it all go to crap?
Well, it's the government. We got to spend the money on something.
Yeah.
Got to spend the money on something, Andrew.
We could take the 2040 plan and just, thrive with it in the toilet.
So, 99% ban on cars currently on the road. But if that wasn't screwy enough, how about we just ban all air travel?
Mind-boggling.
Yeah.
I mean, just mind-boggling. I mean, and again, you might say, well, how does this affect local? Think of all the cities that are vacation destinations. Mm-hmm. Tourists, and think of sports teams. How the hell are they going to get from one place? They're going to go back. Twins going to ride the team bus out to. Wait, they can't have a bus,
right?
What are they going to do?
I don't know.
Think of all the resorts and the people who sell boats and I mean, the whole impact of it. You just can't. I mean. These things fuel our economy, period, every day. And it's not going to change until it has to.
A lot of local businesses rely on the small reliever airports that are around. That's how they get a lot of their goods. I know hospitals tend to use those.
Helicopters for transporting
patients.
They still do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a huge hit, and if they can't get their goods as quickly and as cheaply anymore, then the prices go up for the consumer in those cities.
Yeah, but see, nobody understands that. Again, I've said before, history and economics are the two worst taught subjects on the face of the earth. Yeah. The average American can't explain a supply and demand equilibrium. So, I mean, it's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad.
So, I'm going to take a different tact again on this. I've been thinking about, we mentioned LEED standards on a program a few, because one of the things they want to do is redo all these buildings, right?
Oh, not just redo all these buildings. Every building in America needs to be gutted and rebuilt so that they can be outfitted with energy efficient materials.
So, every building is torn down
in
and
America.
rebuilt.
Yes.
every stadium, every skyscraper, every house.
If it doesn't meet LEED standards already, then yes.
Yeah, but LEED standards are a global, which is being adopted, of course, by states and local governments. And again, that's where you're going to see this. You're going to see LEED standards aren't going to pass Congress. They're going to go to come out of the American Planning Association and go to a city near you and say no. And then you won't be able to build. You won't get a permit. You won't get anything like that until you meet all these ridiculous standards.
Now, I don't know that they'll ever be able to implement going back and retrofitting old buildings unless there's renovation happening already or something like that.
No,
but
you can do it.
But with all new construction, you can bet your bottom dollar that you're going to have to build it with those energy efficient materials.
And you can go back to old buildings because once you change the code, as soon as a sale happens, as soon as something changes hands,
that's another way.
They can say, well, it's not up to standards now, and you can't sell it and you can't buy it. There's no such thing as a private contract unless it is up to the specifications that we say.
But to do all of this within the next 10 years, like they're talking, I mean, that's a pipe dream.
It is, but it's the slow paper cutting where we really have to be concerned.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, these radicals want to do it all tomorrow, but it's going to take time.
Right. It's like we tax 1% of your income, then it's 3%, then it's 7%, then it's 10%, before 30% is the norm. And nobody today knows what it's like to have a 1% tax rate.
Yeah.
So that's where we've gone. If you don't know freedom, you can't lose it. Yeah. So again, that's where we're headed. I think the fallback is going to be on state and local governments to pick this up piece by piece.
Yeah.
You'll see it in the big cities first. Then it'll bleed into the suburbs. Then all of a sudden, state governments will pick it up.
Right.
And that's where we're heading with this. You'll see some idiotic state like California or New York or Washington.
Or Minnesota.
Or some states up in the Northeast or whatever that will pick the... How come Bernie Sanders is so for this? Why isn't the legislature of Vermont doing this?
Right.
If it's just so great for the country.
Right. Well, they got to get the details worked out a little bit first.
Well, who's endorsing this stuff when they don't know anything about it?
Well,
I mean, you could tell Amy Klobuchar hadn't read a page of it.
Right.
Then she goes on an interview and bumbles and fumbles. Cory Booker, I'm not sure if he can read. And Elizabeth Warren, I'm sure it's written in Cherokee or something. So, but I mean, the point being, there's so much in this that I think people are going to lose sight of the things you and I would pick up on, Jay.
Right.
Like the LEED standards and where it can trickle down. How about a carbon tax?
Absolutely. I mean, that's something they've been pushing for a long time.
Well, Al Gore ran on that in 2000. He wanted a North American carbon tax.
Ridiculous.
So, I mean, but is that something that is a state's going to pick up or okay, we can't charge franchise fees anymore. You want a car, you're going to buy carbon credits to it's funny, we want to stop polluting, but you can pay to pollute.
Right.
So, is that going to be picked up?
Well, if they have their way, yes.
But think about all the jobs. I mean, we talk about the jobs in the coal industry, truck drivers, bus drivers, steel workers,
miners,
and all the places that do business with them, which is pretty much everybody. How can you just? It's almost like cutting the United States off and starting them over again.
Yeah, it's almost as if we had been hit by an EMP, right?
Maybe we have been.
Yeah, it's like zombie apocalypse. What do you do? So it's crazy, Andrew. I mean, these ideas are literally insane. And to think that they're going to get implemented in the 10 years, it's not going to happen. It's never going to happen at the federal level, I hope. That depends on who wins in 2020. I think if a radical is elected president and they take over the Senate, then it's possible we see these things at the federal level. But otherwise, yeah, it's going to come down to the states and then down to the cities, and then we'll go back up to the states after the crazies at the local level get elected to state offices. So, that is how I think this happens. It's going to be piecemealed together. It's going to come as suggestions from the National League of Cities to the League of Minnesota Cities, from the National Association of Development Organizations to the Minnesota Association of Development Organizations. It's going to come from the American Planning Association. It's going to come from places, like Bike America. It's going to come from all these sources. The EPA, is going to be pushing it, and then we're going to see it implemented into things like Minnesota Green Step Cities.
Well, and I'll tell you, they're already turning to the states for this.
Right.
One of the things that the far left has been complaining about is that the tepid response in Washington to it.
Right.
That because Governor Walz had some protesters the other day. Illinois has already adopted its own version called the Future Energy Jobs Act.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so they're already doing it here that's at a state level, but all these local governments are going to have to comply with this.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's pretty brutal.
It's more brutal than driving in Minneapolis in February.
Tim Walz's daughter actually has promised to hold him accountable if he does not pass Minnesota's version of the Green New Deal.
Wow.
So they're not waiting for Congress to act here.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty quick. I mean, if they're looking to pick that up already, I'm hoping that there's not enough votes in the Minnesota Senate to pass something like that. But I don't trust them.
I don't either. I just don't. But
yeah.
I would not. I mean, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be called. They're going to come up with a fancy marketing name for it.
That's going to sound super
How
positive.
could you be
like
against that?
Yeah.
And
it's the Breathe Easier Act of 2019.
And I'll tell you, the building requirements could really be out of whack. I mean, they could require solar panels. They could require, which are very expensive. Yeah. Even when they're subsidized,
light cycling technology.
Yes.
Heck, for taller buildings, they may require that you use wind energy. You've got these tall skyscrapers, or you have a 5-story building with 3-story buildings around it. You may have to use wind on the top of your building. They could come up with anything.
What's stopping them?
Nothing.
So, I mean, I bet they've been dreaming this up. This has been in their wet dreams for a long time to be able to implement all of this. And I'll tell you what, this is the tip of the iceberg. I mean, whether it's taxes, whether it's vehicles, whether it's buildings, whether it's streets, whether it's what's on your paycheck or your doctor or whatever. I mean, like we said, I mean, this is a chances are where you work, chances are I would bet almost 100% involve cars, trucks, or some kind of fossil fuel.
Yeah.
So get ready for a career change.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable. How are you going to work? How are you going to manage a restaurant if nobody can drive the food to the restaurant? Nobody can drive to get there. I mean,
well, how many kitchens are run on natural gas?
Oh, zero.
Now, no way.
Oh, no. I mean, the opposite.
Right.
All
of them. Right. They're not using electric.
I meant zero is
they're
what
not
they
using
want.
electric stoves in a commercial kitchen.
No.
It's. How are we going to heat our homes? Our homes right now, furnaces are run on natural gas. So we're going to go and retrofit every home with what?
And bill who for it?
Wind-powered furnaces? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think they make too much heat. We'll go walk outside. I don't think the wind's making a lot of heat. Right?
Yeah. So I don't know. That's what's coming down the pike. It's what we need to look out for. They are going to try and put this in at the local level. It is not going to be just a national level thing. That's a distraction. I think they're serious about wanting to put it in a federal level, but I know that they are working like gangbusters to get it in where you're not looking, because that's where it's going to be harder to root it out.
And I'll tell you, if we have a Democratic president, look for it to be done by executive order the way President Obama tried to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Look for it to be done by changing standards at the EPA or something like that, or making it almost. I mean, how do you ban the sale of like vehicles? I mean, how do you do that?
Oh.
I mean, on the one hand, government's bailing out GM. On the other hand, they're trying to render GM obsolete. Which is it?
Yeah. Well, they're going to be like, you need to switch to electric. That's going to be the law. You can only manufacture electric cars from here on out. That'll be the law.
How can you?
Yep. So, Minnesota, you see, we're in for a struggle. We're in for a fight over these next many years. We can't do it alone. We're two guys that sit here with a couple of microphones, and we tell you all about it. We go around the state. We talk to groups of people just like you, and we tell them how to get involved. But unless you guys actually step up and get involved, at the end of the day, all of our blustering and our research and our strategy doesn't mean a hill of beans. So it's really up to you at this point. You have a decision to make. Are you going to sit there and say, oh, it's never coming, bury your head in the sand, and then watch it as they implement it and wonder how it happened? Or are you going to do something about it? How do you do that? Really easy. First of all, you get on a commission. You get on a planning commission so you can give recommendations over zoning changes. You get on an environmental quality commission so that you can see this stuff coming. You get on a human rights commission. You get on a charter commission. You got to do it. And the reason you got to do it is because nobody else is going to see what you see. And we need your mind. We need your body filling a seat. Otherwise, it's just going to be filled with people that already buy into this stuff, because that's what we've got in Minnesota for decades. They have filled these seats in advisory commissions, in elected offices with people that think just like this. So what are you going to do? Let me tell you what to do.
Yeah.
You can email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That is commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We'll speak to your group. We'll speak to you. We'll help you get appointed. We'll help you get elected. You can pass along our fantastic blog and or our podcast to others to help them understand and learn these same concepts. Because we're building a team of 20,000 people across this state that will fill these elected and appointed seats and govern with common sense principles. That's what we're out to do. Team 20K is currently open and taking applications. And we've got a number of people already across the state, but we've got plenty of room still to go. So we want to go away for another week and do some more research, come up with another podcast that's going to make you just as mad as this one. But until that time, you've got some work to do. You've got to go and tell your neighbors and tell your friends and tell your family, because that's how we grow this thing. So, Minnesota, we thank you for listening. We thank you so much for being a part of what we're doing, because it takes all of us to get this done. We love you, Minnesota, and now it's your turn to get to work.
get too caught